Hello guys, I humbly welcome you to the channel. In this comprehensive series, we are covering on almost all aspects of e-commerce development. The goal is for us to learn. You can find the source code on the link below. If you have any question or want us to work together, you can send me a message. Otherwise, happy learning. Start by setting up the project. And like I said before, this project is going to be a comprehensive project. And if you're looking forward to learning Django, trust me, this is your go-to tutorial. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be a long journey, but the journey is going to be worth it. So to begin with, I'm going to start by creating a folder. I'm going to call this folder e-commerce shoe project. Let me call it YouTube tutorial to differentiate this project with the other project I've done. Then the first thing I'm going to do is create a virtual environment. The reason why I'm creating a virtual environment is to separate the packages I'm going to use in this project with other packages that have been installed locally in this machine of mine. So to do this, I'm just gonna type python/m venv, then the name of our virtual environment. In this case, I'm calling it venv. Then in this virtual environment, what we want to do is to activate a file called activate. It's usually located in a folder called bin. It's taking longer, I don't know why. Let's clear this. Let's navigate to the folder, go to the folder called bin. In this folder, you can see there are several files. We have the activate file, we have the activate.csh and the activate.fish. So depending on the machine you're using, you activate one of these files. In most cases, if you're using Windows, then the activate function is, no, the activate file you're going to use is the activate one. But in my case, I'm using an operating system called an Linux. So the way I saw this to activate my file, I will activate the file called activate.fish. But please confirm your system and activate the required file. It's not such a big deal. Then after that, the first thing we're going to do is install our first package. In this case, Django is always usually the first package to install, because now we are going to use this Django to create our project. In Django, we have projects, and then from this project, we are going to create apps. It's usually confusing, but when you create so many Django projects, you kind of get used to it. Anyway, so now from this Django package, what I want to access is the Django admin. So what I'm going to do is type Django admin start project. I'm going to call our project shoe store, then click enter. From our folder, you can see we have our first project and we are calling it shoe store. And in this project, we have several files. Now, after creating our project, we want to create our first app. To do this, all we need to do is to navigate to our folder, is to navigate to our project, in this case, shoe store. So we do this, you say change directory, shoe store, and then what we want to access is the manage.py. So we're going to say python manage.py start app, then the name of our app, in this case it's shoes. I'm going to call our app shoes. You can call it whatever you want, but I would advise you to stick with what I'm writing here, shoes. From our folder, you can see we have our first app called shoes. In this shoes app, we're going to store everything related to the shoe e-commerce, like maybe the shoe products, shoe category, and the stuff. You're all going to see this later. Then I'm going to open my code editor. In this case, I'm using Visual Studio Code. So to do this, just type code. Is our project. From our left, you can see we have our project, and then we have our e-commerce app. In this project, we have various files like asgi.py, we have settings.py, we have urls.py. Settings.py holds various files and various configurations related to this app. Not such a big deal. And we are going to we are going to go through these some of these configurations as we continue with this series. We have templates. Here we are going to link our, because we're going to create our templates on the base directory, we're going to link it over there. The database we're using SQLite. Later, we are going to use Postgres database, PostgreSQL. For now, we're just going to stick with SQLite. It's easier to use. We have our language code. Based on where you are located, you can change that. I think I'm also going to change that later. I'm going to show you how that is done. We have our statics, URLs. Here we're going to add all URLs related to our apps. So we're gonna have to create other URLs on the apps to hold the URLs of those of the files we want to open. So the first thing we're going to do is to add our app to our installed apps in the settings.py, kind of like separating them. So our apps, are calling them custom apps, then installed apps, it's what they're going to install via terminal. Our first app, the name is called shoes. So just write shoes, comma, let it just stay that way. Then I'm going to pass a URL pattern. So to do this, I'm going to import include. Then I'm going to say path, bracket, an empty path. Then admin, no, sorry, it's include, then bracket, shoes dot urls, yeah, like that, then a comma at the end. Any other URL related to the apps, we are going to add it over here. Then we go to our views. Here we can create no, okay, let me just go through the first. Models, we are going to create our models. Apps, the name of our app. Admin, once we create our model, we want to register the models here so that we can use them on the admin. Let's run the file directory. We want to, let's run the app and see whether everything is okay. Python manage.py, we run server. Oh, something is wrong. No, we're getting an error. Module not found error. No module named shoes.urls. The reason for this is because we haven't created the URL for our app called shoes. Let's check whether everything is okay. We have our path empty, include shoes.urls. Okay, that's okay. What am I missing? Let me debug it. Everything is okay. See, let me use single, but I know they would make a difference. Okay, that one is okay. Let me read this again. Path empty, then include. It's supposed to load automatically. I don't know what it's doing. Include. Our app is shoes. So it's shoes.urls. Shoes.urls. Okay. Comma. let's add a comma to a custom app. I'm still getting the error. Let's stop it and rerun it again. We are still getting the same error. No mod unit. Okay, in some of these cases when I kind of like using ChatGPT, something wrong. Instead of like using the traditional method of googling an error and then trying to debug it, these days I'm just finding it easier to just use ChatGPT to kind of debug these errors. So I'm just going to pass this error and see what I'm doing wrong. So I just copy the error and paste it on ChatGPT. So it's giving me a checklist. I want a checklist of what I could be doing wrong. Okay, it's telling me to check the project structure. I verify my URL. Check the installed apps.py. Okay. Okay, our installed apps, we have our installed apps and it's correct. Let's verify that. Installed apps. Okay, it's correct. Okay, that's correct. Then the URL pattern. Okay, that's also correct. Yeah, okay. Okay, here they are telling me to pass shoes. I really don't need to pass shoes at the moment because all I want is to pass an empty path when I'm navigating. I will show you later when we open the URL. Then we verify our URL.py on our shoes app. Now this is what we don't have. And I think this is where the error is coming from. If you look at our app shoes, we don't have a URL. So we're just going to create one URL. So it's urls.py. We needed to create it anyway. So we are going to import from django.path, .url, sorry. We import path. Then URL patterns is equals to, we pass our URLs. Here we pass paths to our views, to our view functions. That is where we want to navigate to when we are displaying those functions. So our first path, we can just pass. This is the format, like the name of the path. Then we import our functions from view, and then we pass the name. Just like the generic stuff of Django, not something big of a deal. So I think we're gonna start by creating our first view. We are going to call it index, and then we are going to return. We are going to use a module called HTTP response. So we're going to say from Django. This is just for test. We are going to replace this with our actual index.html files. So from django.http, we import HTTP response. So we return HTTP response. Then we can pass a message. This is a test. This is a dem test. I hope it works. I can't believe I'm being disturbed by setting up the project. It kind of has just got me frustrated. Okay, that's working correctly. So here we are going to import our views. So it's views dot uh, oh sorry, we haven't imported our views from this app. So say from here it's a full stop, import views. Remember this full stop. So we say views dot, the name of our view function is index, like we have indicated before. Then we want to name it home. Then here, name of the path, I want to leave this path empty, so that when I load the local server, it's just gonna load it on a name. Or let me just pass home. I'm going to do that later so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's verify everything. We have our path, we have our view function, we have passed our show app URL correctly. Okay, the custom app is correct. Everything seems correct. Everything seems okay. Okay, let's close our server and refresh it one more time. Everything works correctly. Everything looks good. We haven't applied migrations, but don't worry about them. We're going to make the migrations later. Let's open this link. Page not found, because our URL path is home. As you can see from here, we have admin and we have the home one. Here, home, like you passed it before. If you passed it empty, it could have loaded, but let's go to home. You see everything is working correctly now. This is a dem test. I hope it works. Now, what if we want to navigate to this URL? How do we do it? We do this, we just have to delete this name home here and leave this path empty. Let's refresh. Everything seems to be working correctly. Yeah, good, 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 good. Also, we could have passed something like shoes, like on this app. So when we're navigating, we start with like shoes and then that empty path. If we refresh, we see get an error, because now we have two paths, admin and the shoes path. So if we navigate to shoes, it loads it. But I don't want like to have a name before I load my app on this first app. So I'm just going to leave it empty. I'm just doing this to show you why we never added a name here to begin with. That's okay. I hope it's clear. I hope that is clear. Next, we are going to deal with this secret key. I don't want to pass the secret key this way. I want to pass the secret key in a file called .env, so that when I share my project, or when my project is out there like on GitHub, someone cannot access my secret key. Also, let's say I want to, also later we are going to configure like AWS S3 bucket to act as our storage. We want to store those configurations of the secret key. So to do this, I'm going to use a package called Python decouple, like I have shown before. So okay, let's say you don't know how to use a secret key. So how can you do this using ChatGPT? How do you just have to search for it. So I can say something like package to use to save secret key files in Django. I know of two methods. The first one is the Django environment, and then Python decouple. But I kind of like using Python decouple because it's simpler to use. You see, ChatGPT is recommending me to use Django environment, but I want to use Python decouple. So let me just say how about Python decouple installation and setting up, then blah blah blah. pip install python decouple, then you pass your secret key. You can also store database configurations on the secret key, but for now we are just only going to set up the secret key, then later we're going to add other configurations, and also we will have to remember to add a .gtignore file. I started by installing python decouple, like you can see there. Then the next thing we are being told is to create a .env file. If you're using Windows, just right click on your computer, then I think it's create file. I'm not sure. I'm used to using like a Linux system. So for me, just like touch.env. We have our env file here. And also make sure this env doesn't have an extension. So simply, if you are just creating it using the traditional way, just create a new file, then .env, not big of a deal. Okay, then let's follow the steps. Then after that, in this env, also you're supposed to create the env on our root directory, which you already did. Then let's just copy this. We are supposed to paste this in our .env. But for now, I just want the secret file. I don't want these other configurations. So secret file, your secret key. Sorry. So we just pass our secret key. I just cut this. This is our secret key. So I'm just going to cut this and paste it here. Oh, I have double quotations. Let's delete that. Like that. Save our file. Okay, then step 3 is to load our .env file in our settings.py. To do this, we are just going to import config from decouple, and also we're going to import OS, that is operating system. Though I'm not using OS at the time, but let me just import it. From decouple, import config and CSV, but I'm also not using CSV, so I think I'm also going to delete it. Then we're going to use this config to load the secret file from .env. Let me delete the CSV. Then here on the secret key, okay, this is here, it says secret key. Then we use config, we load secret key. Secret key is the name of the variable we passed when we were storing the secret key on the file .env. You can call it wherever you want. You can call it your name. You just have to remember to load it the same way you named it over there on the settings.py. Like that. Very easy, very simple. So if someone end up stumbling across our settings.py, they are not going to see our secret key. Let's load the server. Still we have those unapplied migrations, but it's running. Let's refresh. Everything is working correctly. On this .env, you can add so many things. You can add like debug. You can make debug to be false. No, you can, yeah. We also want the AWS configurations. We can also want the database. Also remember to create a .gtignore file. Add .env to .gtignore. When you're pushing to GitHub, .env will be ignored. So touch.gitignore, enter. Then we add to this file .env .env. Any other file we want to ignore, when we push in this code to GitHub, we're also going to pass it in this file. Let's run server, see and see whether everything is running correctly. Everything is running correctly. Good, good. We have set up that successfully. I think we're also going to configure the static files and the templates. Yeah, I think we can also configure them in this tutorial. Let me open another terminal over here. I like leaving one running. I like leaving the server running on one. So I'm going to make a directory. I'm going to call this directory static, and I'm making this directory on the root directory. Don't forget. And then I'm also going to make another directory called templates. These are just folders. Just right click. If using the traditional method, just right click, like Windows right click, new folder, static, new folder, templates. And that is done. Let's see with our server still running. Server still running. Then we are going to configure our static our static files. That is static URL, static root, media URL, and media root. So the first, okay, we already have static. Then next is static root directory. I think I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong. It's supposed to be just a minute. It's static. It's caps. Static root. Yeah, static root. It's static root. Static root is equals to. So where do we want our static root to be? So we want to join the base directory and our static. So it's os.path.join base directory, comma, then static file. Sorry, it's static files, not static. Then we also want to add static files directory. We pass it as a list, so it's os.path.join. Same thing, base directory. Then static. These two can be confusing, but once you understand them, they are very easy to remember. Then we are going to configure our media URL. Let's call them media files. So we just pass media URL is equals to media. Make sure you have 2 slashes before and after media. Then media root, similar configuration like the way we did on the static root. So it's os.path.join base directory and media. In simple terms, the media URL and the media root, these two are for managing media files. As simple as that. Don't overthink it. Those two are for managing media files. Then static URLs, static roots, and static directory. The static URL and the static root are for managing static files. And then the static directory is for telling Django where to find extra static files. It's as simple as that. The static root for managing statics. The static file directory for telling Django where to find the static files. Then something else I like to include. Okay, let's just finish this because this is something that we are going to do when we pushing this on production. But let's just finish it at this point. We are going to set up the static and media files URLs. So for this, I'm going to import those directories we have created at the moment. So I'm going to say from django.config, I want to import settings, these settings, and then on these settings, I want to import static. So it's from django.config import. No, I think it's .url .config.urls urls. Yeah, it's .urls .static. I want to import static. Then I want to set a condition. I want to set a condition on the files. So I want to say if settings.debug, here we are saying if the project is in the development mode, that is the debug mode, what we want to do is to add URL patterns to serve the static and media files directory from the respective directories. It's as simple as that. It's very important, especially during development, as you can see your static and media files without needing a web server like an example like Nginx or Apache to render these files. So you want to pass the URL patterns. So it's URL patterns plus equals, meaning okay, if you do programming most of it, you know how this means. It's like URL patterns is equals to URL patterns plus static, but plus is equals makes it easier. So it's static, then bracket settings dot static, then document root, send a static URL, sorry. Oh, they made an error. I was wondering why that was showing like that. So is settings dot static URLs, then document root is equals to static equals to settings dot static root. I have an error here. Let me correct it. It's one equals. Then I'm going to copy this and do the same for media URL. Copy this, paste it, change static URL to media URL. media URL and media root. Everything seems okay. Everything is running correctly. Let's run the server again. The server is running correctly. Let's close these files. So now that we have done that, we are going to configure our static and templates. So on templates, I'm going to create another folder called shoes. I kind of like separating them because you're going to have multiple apps. So on the first app, shoes, then I want to create another folder called partials. This one will hold the base.html. What we want, that is every code, every HTML code we want to repeat on every page. Then on shoes, I'm going to create a file called index.html. This is going to be our index file, our home file. Let me do doc type. It's not displaying. Let me just do something simple like h2. Let's say this will be, this will hold the main page, the main contents of our site. Then what we want to do, okay, let's just also write another name here. You can say on this base, this, although I don't think I'm going to render this, but let's just add it. This will hold the content I want to repeat across every page, like the header and footer. That's content you want to repeat in almost every page. So let's go back to our shoe app and change our index function to, let's comment this out. We want to point to that HTML file. So what we're going to use is render. So it's just return render, then we pass our request. Then the path of our index.html is at shoes. We created a folder called shoes, then slash index.html. The URL is still the same. Everything looks good. So that means when we refresh, the server is running correctly. When we refresh our server, it should display what is written on the HTML file. Okay, now it looks we have an error. So how do I handle this error? I can choose to Google the error, but I can choose to search the error normally, but I can also choose to use ChatGPT to solve the error. Like I said, the best way you can use ChatGPT or any AI you are using, maybe a llama or whatever you're using, is to solve it's very easy to solve them. So I'm just gonna copy the error and paste it on ChatGPT. Just paste it. Template does not exist. though I kind of know where the error is coming from, but for the sake of demonstration, let me just show you how I do it to kind of solve these errors. So I just paste the error and then ask ChatGPT to give me a checklist to see where I could be going wrong for me to get this error. Okay, check the project structure, define templates in setting.py. This is where we're going wrong. We don't have a base. We haven't set where the template is on our setting.py. So we also want to verify that our app is installed correctly. We already did that. We also asked to check for typos and also restart our Django server. Let's start from the beginning. Check the template directory structure. Okay, the checklist. Ensure that your template directory structure is correct. It's correct. Project root, we have manage.py, we have our project name. You see on our root, we have our project, we have our app, we have our templates, we have our manage.py. Everything is correct over there. Then define templates in settings.py. Make sure you have correctly configured template settings in your settings.py. It should include the directories options with the path to your template directory. I don't think we did this. Import OS. Yes, we imported OS. Templates. This is the line of code we haven't configured. So I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm just going to go to my settings.py. Where are you? You are here. Let's navigate to templates. Yeah, templates. You see on our templates, this is still empty, and yet we have our template folder on our base directory. So that's what we're basically doing. It's os.path.join. We are pointing our settings in our settings.py where our base directory, where template is, and it's basically in our base directory. Base directory templates. Let's refresh. Let's refresh our browser, and you can see everything is rendering correctly. So now next, I think what we are going to do is just render the HTML content of the app we are going to create through this series. So if you don't have this source code, please find this source code on the link below. This is what you're going. If you have your own source code, you can use it, but I would really highly recommend and advise you to use this one. It kind of have some comprehensive features, so I'm just going to drag and drop our index.html. What I want to do is copy this code and paste it to our index.html. That is in our project. I'm just gonna delete this and then paste everything here. Then I also want to copy these static files. We have CSS, JS, SCSS. So I'm just gonna, yeah, we want to copy them to our static. So I'm just gonna copy and paste. Done. We have CSS, fonts, image, blah, blah, blah. Now if we look at our folder, everything is set up correctly. Everything is correct. Now I want to separate this index.html to divide it into two. One, call that will go to the base directory, and second, call that will remain on the index.html. What we want to send to the base directory is what we want to repeat on every page. So we're just going to use Giga templating. You know how this is done. It's very simple. If you have never done it, just follow what I'm going to do. So what do I want to repeat on the base.html? Like I said before, I want to repeat the header and I also want to repeat the footer. So how we do this, here I can say I want header and footer. they will repeat on every page. So I'm just gonna search. I'm just gonna look to where the header ends. So I think uh, the main one should start at main. Yeah, I think yeah. So I'm just gonna copy all this code, all this header code. What I want to remain here is the main class main, and then I'm just gonna cut, not copy. I'm just gonna cut all this code, cut it, then paste it on our base.html. Then I'm just gonna create a block content. This block content will render any other code that is in block content. If you haven't done Giga templating, this is confusing at first, but if you follow keenly, you kind of understand it. Then all you have to do is block content, then add block content. So we are going to pass our main class on block content on the index, and then it will be rendered automatically on on this empty block content. Then next, I want to paste the footer after the block content. So I'm just going to go back to index. I'm just going to copy this footer class main. I hope everyone watching this know how to do HTML. I'm not going to touch that on this. I'm just going to cut this. Then I'm just going to paste it below our block content. As simple as that. Then on this index.html, what I want is to pass block content, is to pass this content in between the block content. So I'm gonna say block content, then end block content. Now, since this content is within this block content, it's gonna be rendered automatically on the base.html like that. Everything looks okay. Let me expand our main class. Yeah, and that's our code. Then that block content, that code within that block content is what is gonna be rendered in this empty block content. It's a little bit tricky at first if you have done Django, but if you do it several times, you kind of just understand it. I think that's all I can say about it. Then something else I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna import that base.html. So I'm gonna say, we usually say extends for, first of all, let me load static to load all the static files. We're also going to load static on the base.html, and I'm also gonna extend, I'm gonna say extends, then where's the base.html, it's on partials, this folder called partials. And why I'm extending, because on this base.html we have CSS files and we have JS files, and they cannot load if you haven't coded them on this index.html. We have our base.html. Yeah, I'm also gonna load the static, so I'm just gonna say load static. Yeah, like that. Everything looks okay. The next thing we are going to do is to configure our images, our CSS in a way that Django can understand them, like adding static in front of them. So I can do this manually, which is like really tiring, or I can just, there's this extension called Auto Django. Can you just go to extensions and then search for Auto Django by someone called Tommy? This individual really did us a favor behind it. It was really tiring. And just install this package called Auto Django. Then I'm gonna go back to our index.html and then I'm gonna search for Auto Django. I do this by pressing Control Shift P, and then select Auto Django. You can see the static has been added automatically. Static, then the path was static files. Very easy. If I was to pass that manually, it could have taken me a lot of time. And then, of course, I think there are some files which we are going to check whether everything has been converted to a way that Django has understood it. If not, we're going to just run that manually. Let's also do the same to base.html. Control Shift P, select Auto Django. You see, static has been added to our CSS. Okay, we can see some files. This it hasn't been, so we are going to convert this manually. Just a bracket, percentage, static, then we copy the path. We cut the path, cut and paste. We're also going to do the same thing on the main.css. Let's remove this extension and it's gonna bring problems later. So bracket, percentage, static. Then we cut this. Everything looks okay. Let's see whether we have any other file that has not been rendered correctly. Everything looks okay. We are going to deal with the .htmls later, but for now let's just deal with the statics. Okay, everything looks okay over there. Okay, this one hasn't been rendered, so let's just pass. Okay, so let's just remove this, and also this version, let's remove it. Everything looks okay. Yeah, everything looks okay. Okay, let's refresh our browser and see whether it's going to be rendered correctly. Yeah, it's loading. It's loading. Our images are being loaded. Our JavaScript has been loaded. All our images have been loaded, although there are some images that haven't been loaded yet, but you can see most of these images have been loaded. These two background images haven't been loaded, so we're just going to configure that manually. I think it's the index.html file. So I think it's the background images. Yeah, it's the background images. You see they haven't been rendered. So here I'm just gonna pass static. Static. Also, some of these files, like this background image, I can just use ChatGPT. I just tell it, make this in a way that Django will understand it's a static file. It's very easy. It saves a lot of time. But let me just render this manually. Maybe I can show you later how I do it. static. Okay, let's find the next one. I'm just going to add static. And do the same way I did in the previous one. Everything looks great. Now in a case I would use ChatGPT, I would just copy it and then paste it on ChatGPT. I can tell it something like change, add static, to this line of code. Then it come with some bullshit to ensure that to give me everything I need to make it static, but this is not what I want. I just want a static. I should have specified better area, but let's see how it renders. I can tell it want I just want I just want the line of code in a way, can say in a way that Django can process it. No need of explanations. Then I can tell it to remember. So also remember this. So every time I paste such a line of code, it will not start explaining it. Also remember this next time. It's loading, it's taking longer than expected. I don't know, it's loading that much. Memory updated. You see, it is updating the code the way I want it. Static, then the path to the image. So I'm just gonna copy this and then paste it over here. And then structure this correctly. Too much space over here. Just delete this space. Everything looks correct. Our shows image slider. Okay, everything looks correct. Let's refresh our browser. My machine is taking long to load. I don't know why. Come on, come on, come on. You can see our background, some of our background images have been rendered. Some haven't been rendered. We are missing something. What am I missing? Which image is not being rendered? I think it's the second one. What is that one? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see where the issue is coming from. Silver sneakers is being rendered. Everything looks correct. So the second one, everything looks correct. Let me delete this space, but I know they would make a difference. Asset slash images slash slider slash. I think that's the correct image of the path. Either the image does not exist or the path is wrong. Okay, first of all, let's test to see whether it's the image. Static shows images. So I'm just gonna change the name of this. Everything looks correct. No, let me refresh. Let me restart the server again. Maybe it's not loading. Python manage.py run server. First image loading correctly. Still, no, one image is not loading. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Let's see. Let's see. Come on, come on. I'm telling you, my comp is overloaded. Our image still not loading. I'm doing something wrong, but I can't see what I'm doing wrong. And I know it's just a small error I'm doing and I can't see it. What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? Let's refresh it one more time. Let me look at the code again. So it's not the image nor the path. Oh, I made an error. It's assets. I was passing in shoes. Oh my god. I think everything is okay now. Everything looks okay. So I'm just gonna load this one more time. I'm telling you, my machine is hanging, like hanging. Let me load it one more time. Yeah, everything seems to work correctly. Yeah, everything is working correctly. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.